Wow. Look, first, congrats to Duke. Duke beats Clemson for the first time since 1980. Yeah, Duke has not at Death Valley. That's what I meant to say. Clemson has not beat, or Duke has not beat Clemson at Death Valley since 1980. And they just won 46-45. Congratulations to Duke. Duke came in and played a very good game. Darian Mensah walks out with 361 yards, 27-41, 4 touchdowns. They improved to 4-3. Actually it's better than that, and they improved to 5-3, 4-1 in the ACC. Clemson, on the other hand, they are now 3-5, 2-4 in the ACC. And before I talk about this call, before I talk about this call, I want to state something. Clemson earned the loss, but this is also where they could have won the ball game. With that said, that pass interference call there at the end of the game, I mean, this is the time that the official's supposed to really be on their game. If you watch the entire play, that should have been a foul on both teams. Now, for my Clemson fans here, who's like, that was obviously pass interference on the offense at the end. I agree with you. 100%. Let's watch the entire play. The DB, I think it was Terrell. I can't remember. Y'all forgive me for that. Held the Duke wide receiver. He did not kind of grasp him. He held him and held him bad. Then Mensah puts the ball up. And as the Duke receiver realizes that Clemson may actually intercept the pass, what does he do? As he is entangled, and remember, this is happening fast. We can run this to where it's instant replay to where it's as slow as a snail. It's like, yeah, that's it. It was happening fast, okay? But with that said, that DB had entangled him so much that once the ball went up, that Duke receiver realized that they may intercept this. So instead of just going ahead and still allowing the Clemson defender to hold him, he starts to hold back as the Clemson defender starts to go past him. So that should have been a flag on both sides. It should have been a flag on Clemson for the pass interference, but it also should have been a flag on the Duke player for offensive pass interference. That's what's commonly called an offsetting penalty, and you would replay the down. That's not what happened. And that's why a lot of people are booing. If I were Dabo Swinney, I'd be upset. If I were Manny Diaz, I'm not a Duke fan. I wish them well. They won. But if I'm Manny Diaz, I'm sitting there going, well, hold on. If the hold was not called, I'd be angry. But the correct call would have been a flag on both sides with offsetting penalties. That's an offsetting penalty all day long, every day. And it ends up costing Clemson the game. Now, let's go ahead and stop this. Let's stop right there. Duke was like, look, we're going to put this game away. That play could have been easily stopped, and Clemson wins by 1 point. They're 4-4. Sure, it's not the season that we want, but we clap our hands and the peasants rejoice. At least we didn't go to 3-5. Duke had ran that type of play before. You notice there was a lot of pre-snap motion. They changed the lineup about I say 4 or 5 times. That's actually an exaggeration. Probably 2 to 3 times, roughly, if you notice. And they were just looking, I'll guarantee you, to see what happened with the defense. Was there a shift? Can we tell if they're in man? Can we tell if there's some type of zone coverage? Was there a little bit of man, a little bit? Was there whatever's going on here? And that was like the second or third time they ran that play, slipping it out into the flat to that guy who, and there he is. And they won the ball game. So though that play, that was a terrible call, and that should have been an offsetting penalty. Replay the down. Clemson had a chance to stop that 2-point conversion. Clemson didn't have to give up 46 points in the ball game. Clemson's coverage could have been better. You knew that Mensa wanted to throw the football. By the way, Cade threw for 370. 372 touchdowns, no interception. So if anybody wants to beat the Cade Klubnik drum, yes, he has earned criticism here and there. You know I'm a Cade fan. But that, even if I'm a fan of someone, I'm still going to tell the truth about them. I believe lying to people does not help anyone. That's not love, folks. That's not appreciation. That's not honor or loyalty. It's called lying to their detriment and calling it noble. All right? A lot of people does that. The common way of the world, no matter what your belief system is to do that. You're wrong. I hate to tell you that you're wrong. That doesn't help anyone. But Cade was 27 of 36 today, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns. The defense could not stop Duke. Now, let's pause right here. Here's something that's going to make you lose your mind. Do you realize that Clemson had 106 more yards total offense than Duke? Clemson had 545 total yards against Duke. Duke had 439. Clemson threw for 370, as I said. They rushed for 175. Duke 439, 360 of that, 361 of that's in the air, 78 on the ground. Clemson's offense did quite well today overall. They put up 45 points. They put up 545 yards. Cade didn't turn over the ball. Good for Antonio Williams. 10 receptions, 149 yards, a touchdown. It's nice to see TJ Moore get a big play. By the way, he has transfer portal written all over him. I've been saying that since the Troy game. I hope I'm wrong. And at the same time, there's a lot of things that I hope that I was wrong about over the past 5 years. And unfortunately for me, and unfortunately for us Tiger fans who gives a crap about their team, I have not been wrong. Wished I was wrong. Wished I would have to backtrack. Wished I would have to reposition myself. I wished I would have to change my posture towards the team. Unfortunately, everything is coming to fruition. And I'm going to tell you straight up, it's much worse than what I expected. 3-5, 2-4 in the ACC. Again, Duke played a good game. Duke took advantage of what they could take advantage of. But let me tell you this, Clemson's offense was not bad today. It wasn't. Yeah, we started slow, but sir, and to the 3 women that watches my show, ma'am, if you score 45 points in a ball game, you're supposed to win. This is nuts. This is the same Duke team that Illinois dog-walked in week 2. Well, that's week 2. Sure, of course, I get it. Ah, great, wonderful. We don't want to play the transitive game. All right, that's totally fine. Ignore it. I know that you can't just play that game completely, but to completely overlook that, I think is reckless as well if you're trying to, well, be writing crap. This is this is very sad for the Tigers. In the preseason, I said that if Clemson, with this roster, one of the most experienced rosters in all of college football, coming back, maybe the most experienced in major college football, if they lost 3 regular season games, it would be seen as a catastrophic failure. 3 regular season games, it would be a catastrophic failure. They're sitting at loss number 5. Folks, I mean, it's been so long, I can't even remember the last time Clemson lost 5 ball games. We would have to go back to, I think, 2010 when Clemson went 6-7 in Dabo's second full season. And I believe I've heard him tell the story of where Terry Don Phillips was waiting on him in his office. The lights were off and everything. Terry Don Phillips encouraged him, stood behind him. The rest is history. I get that. But in all the years that I've pulled for Clemson, there's very few seasons that has been this bad. And in fact, I'm going to pull up Clemson football history because, well, that's going to help me remember. I do know that in 1998, Clemson went 3-8. They fired Tommy West that year. Tommy West's very first season at Clemson, I want to say they had a losing record in 1994. And so, I mean, if you're a Clemson, if you're someone who was probably 25 years old or younger, watching Clemson do what they're doing right now, you're probably sitting there going, dude, I can't believe this. But for guys like myself who are early 40s, I can remember Clemson losing ball games, but not like this. Not like this, except for a few times. As I said, in 2020 or in 2010, Clemson was 6-7. Clemson was 6-5 in 2004. Now, yes, they were 8-5 in 2006. They were 7-6 in 2008. But like 6-5 in 2004, I think that was the year that Clemson and South Carolina had the brawl. Clemson had the chance to go to a bowl game. They decided to forfeit the bowl game. We're not going, or not forfeit it, but forfeit the invitation to go to a bowl game after that whole thing. Clemson was 6-6 in 99. They were 3-8 in 98, as I said. In Tommy West's very first season, they were 5-6. Remember, they were 8-3 when they fired Ken Hatfield. Ken Hatfield was 5-6 in 1992. They had 4 10-win seasons in a row from 87 to 90. And you got to realize that in 87, 88, and 89, that was Danny Ford. 85, they were 6-6. In 1980, they were 6-5. It's been, folks, I'm telling you, this is historically bad for Clemson. And so I don't know what to think. I don't know what to say. I don't know. But here's what I have to tell you. If you watch my show religiously, and there's a lot of you that do. There's a lot of you who watches the show, and I'm going to tell you, it's an honor that you watch me. It's an honor that you take the time to watch my show. With all the shows out there, you have people from major media who, when they're not on ESPN or they're not on Fox, they have their own channels and so on. I appreciate you watching me talk about my favorite football team. I grew up in that area. Most of you know that story. But I'm going to tell you straight up, I picked Duke to win this game this week. I picked SMU to win the last ball game. Why? Because it realistically looked like they could win. And I learned from recent history from Clemson. So I'm one of those people, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, someone check me into a mental ward and get me psychologically evaluated. Maybe my IQ is really low. Maybe, just maybe, I'm intoxicated and someone needs to get me some help. Recently, and I say recently, but I've said this a lot in life, I'll hear someone making just a really dumb decision. I'm not talking about just a mistake. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. But there's mistakes, and then there's just pure stupidity. And I one day said, yeah, I hope that person was absolutely hammered or on drugs. It was like the blank look looking back at me was like, what? I was like, well, at least from drugs and being hammered, at least you can sober up from that. But if you do that stone cold sober, and that's your logic and that's your thinking process and that's your judgment, oh, you've got a major problem. I don't sit here and go, yeah, Clemson's just going to lose just because I think I'm just wanting to throw out there a loss. I'm telling you, I think they're going to lose because they're going to lose. Clemson just lost their second game in a row. Clemson is now 1-5 at home since the last South Carolina game. Their home field advantage is no longer home field advantage. Now, I don't know the official numbers for today's game and the attendance. It was not a packed house, but I'll tell you straight up, except for the corners up there of the upper deck, it looked like there was a decent amount of people there. It looked like there was a decent amount of people who had showed up to support them, to pull for them. And that's sad. I really, really hate that. I really hate that for the players who came out there and they're playing. They're still trying to make it happen. TJ Moore, I'm telling you, I don't know the young man, the guy, however you want to reference him. There's some of you get really, really offensive over how you reference someone. It's not like I'm saying something bad about him. If I call him a boy, what do you mean? He's a full-grown man. No, he's not. He looks like a full-grown man. He and my son are about the same age. I have a wonderful son who's 19, and I can tell you right now, he's not a full-grown man. With that said, I'm sorry. I get irritated when people get like nitpicky, get offended over nothing. With that said, that guy, I don't know him personally, but I'm telling you, he has transfer portal written all over him. Look at KC Concepcion. 2 years ago, had an amazing season at NC State. And then last year, the down busted at NC State. Things were looking bad. KC Concepcion looked, you still had good moments, but it was like, oh man, this is terrible. The guy transferred to Texas A&M. He looks unbelievable. Do you think that if you're TJ Moore that you want to stay in this system? Well, if he's a Tiger and he loves his football team and he loves Clemson and he's loyal and what about people? What about the system being loyal to him? Riddle me that, Batman. He has transfer portal written all over him. I mean, stamped on him. Wouldn't blame him. Bettencourt, wouldn't blame him if he hit the transfer portal. I hate it for this team. I hate it for the players. I hate it for the fans. I hate it for some of the coaches. Pardon me. I hate it for some of the coaches who are busting their butt and they're trying, but I've said this and I'm not going to keep talking about it. I have talked about how to fix Clemson over and 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 over, took a deep breath, and over again. I can't go through it again. I'm getting sick of me talking about it. We are not seeing development. We're not seeing an incredible scheme. And if you did, you would not see a 3-5 football team. Now, I told you a couple of years ago when things started going down. And remember, think about this. The last 2 times that Clemson's played Duke, they've now lost to them. But I told you over the past few years, especially the past few years, but past 3 to 5, something is up. And if you correct it now, it's easier to correct. But if you allow a problem to sit in to the program, the longer it's there, the more difficult it is to remove. And to me, I think one of the best examples is thinking about a small leak that you may have in your house. It's just a teeny leak. You'll be okay. Everything will be all right. Y'all are overreacting. That's all you do is here you are. You're just this, apocalyptic thinker, man. You're just so pessimistic, man. Chill. Man, read some self-help books to make you think on a more brighter side. Have some moments of meditation. Drink some green tea or something, dude. Get you some essential oils going. Stop doom scrolling on Instagram. Just chill, bro. And then one day you notice your ceiling, your ceiling starts to bubble a little bit. It's looking weird. Looks like a fat stomach, and you're like, hold on. Drywall doesn't supposed to do that. And then everything comes crashing down. Water, everything. It's ruined the studs in the wall. You had your chance to fix the teeny tiny problem, and now you have a massive problem. I think 3-5, 2-4 in the ACC, not the Big Ten, which still wouldn't be okay. Not the SEC. That's not. Yeah. There's major water damage. And so today I've been warning about this, and today they're 3-5, 2-4. So there we go. That is what happens. That is what happens when you don't fix those problems. I'm going to get into the comments section. Say hello to people real quick. Rub the Rock. Thanks for supporting the channel, my man. Appreciate the donation. Offsetting PI doesn't get called. Defense sucks. I've seen it called a few times, and it's the right call. If we're going to saran wrap, and I know what you mean there, and I'm not rebutting you or smarting off to you, but if we're going to saran wrap, I say saran wrap, bubble wrap, college football quarterbacks and pro quarterbacks and high school quarterbacks, at least get the offsetting calls right. And I've told you that in a past life, I was a basketball official for many years. It is tough. I'm telling you, it is tough. You know, I even know some of the old sayings that referees and officials. Referee is actually a position. Official is the correct title for someone who officiates ball games. Referee is the head man. That's the white hat on football. He's the be all know all. He's the final say, basically. With that said, I know some of those little comebacks officials like to use because I was one. And I always thought this was really bad. You know, like, have you ever been fishing? You can't catch them all. And here I am, official in my head going, yeah, the proper rebuttal to that is there's a whistle in your mouth. I mean, you actually have the choice. It's not like you take a hook and you run it past a fish purposely and go, oh man, I didn't slip that hook in its mouth with my hand. I think that's a really, really bad comeback that officials would use. But anyway, I'm telling you, It is tough, but at the same time, once you get to this level, you have to be ready for that speed. You have to be disciplined. And there's more things that went wrong with Clemson football today other than one bad call that everybody's going to talk about, but it did affect the game. And we can't get past it. There's a lot of people in here that's angry, a lot of people that says it's rigged. Someone says the wrath of God is upon us, which is kind of funny. It almost feels like it. Now, if the wrath of God was upon us, the stadium would fall apart. Someone says it's only getting worse. Coaches, good coaches are good coaches. Results, being a great player, nothing to do with being a good coach. Again, results. There's more than water damage. Clemson needs to focus on winning ACC games, not conference realignment. The Hard Take says, hey, buddy, it's insane. The poor safety play. Sad day in Honky Valley. That's classic. Oh my goodness, may their offense it's good. Love the fact that we ran Davidson. He looks like a monster. When in doubt, they should leave the flag in their pocket. Yep. So, if we're looking if we're looking at Clemson and where they're at, 3-5, 2-4 in the ACC, you have a quarterback who passed for I think the numbers have been updated. He passed for 385 today. So K threw for 385. I mean, at the end of the day, 560 yards. These numbers have been updated since I first started this video. You just have to. The offense, I've had problems with the offense, and I'm not being lulled into some type of lie here, but the offense was not the problem today. It really wasn't. I'm telling you, folks, you start putting 30-plus points up on people, all your defense has to do is go out there and limit them to 4 touchdowns. Most defenses can limit people. Well, I say most defenses. But it is certainly reasonable to hold people to 4 touchdowns. I mean, holding your opponent to 4 touchdowns, I mean, they still moved the ball on you. They still scored. Please forgive me. I've been battling something going on, and now I'm coughing a lot. If I can't stop coughing, I'll just have to end the video, but it's hitting me pretty hard right now. But here's the point. Maybe that's God's cue to me that I need to shut up now. There's a bunch of you in here. If you like what I'm doing, even if you love to come here and hear me complain about Clemson losing, there's 447 of you in here right now. I hope there's 447 thumbs up in there because it's free. All right. Next up, if you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll subscribe right now. That's free. And next up, I'd like for you to pass along this video on Facebook, in your forums, whatever it is. I'm gonna text my wife and see if someone will bring me something to drink. But anyway, if you like what I'm doing, I hope you'll subscribe and pass it along. I'm sorry. All right. I just sent that to my wife. Sorry. So with that said, I mean, there is a question that we know that we're going to lose certain players because of eligibility. There's still going to be players who's going to hit the NFL draft. But right now at 3-5, now we have to be concerned about losing recruits. We've already lost some commitments. And the question is, will we lose more? Now, I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, but this is the truth. Most likely you will. Because if a player looks at a program and says, hey, I like those coaches, I like the Clemson community, I like where Clemson is located, but they're losing. And it doesn't seem like the edge is there. The passion is there. The results, look at the win-loss column. The results are not there. I'm not so sure that I want to go play ball there. And that is where we're at right now in the Clemson community. That's where we're at in the world of college football. Meanwhile, you have Kirk Cignetti up at Indiana. This guy has like 7 4-stars on his team, and the rest of them is just a hodgepodge of players. He's in year number 2. Here he sits number 2 in the country, and they still have a lot to prove. They still have a lot to prove. I'm not trying to deny that. But they're proving it. Meanwhile, Miami lost today to SMU, by the way. SMU beat Miami. SMU that beat Clemson lost to Wake Forest and now just beat Miami. You watch Miami. They'll fire Cristobal. I called this last week when Brian Kelly was fired from LSU. You let Miami lose a couple of more games and they'll fire Cristobal because they're not moving the program at all in the right direction. Okay, maybe at all is a little of an overstatement, but it's not where they want to be. Florida just fired their coach. Tallahassee wants to fire their coach, but these administrations continue to give away their leverage to these head coaches. And when they give their leverage away, they wonder why they find themselves in these positions to where suddenly, after the extensions have been signed, suddenly the football teams are not performing like they used to. Why? It's because anyone who knows anything about business, anything about negotiation, I'm talking about right down to going out and buying a used car for your kid. The moment you walk up to even a private seller, someone who has their car sitting out in their front yard with a for sale sign on it, and you pull up and the first words out of your mouth or your son's mouth, first you look at your son before he looks at that car and you go, keep your mouth closed. Don't act overly enthusiastic. Be ready to walk. That will force the seller of this used car to negotiate. But the moment you get out and you're like, this is the greatest car I've ever seen and I love it and everything, blah, blah, blah. How much? You know what that car owner is going to do? If the price is not out there in front of you, he's going to tack on an extra $2,000 or $3,000. And he may get it, but he may tack that on in his head, knowing that he can negotiate down to his original asking price. Why? Because you gave away your leverage, and that's exactly what these administrations keep doing. The athletic director at LSU, the guy who hired Brian Kelly with the massive buyout, is the same guy who hired Jimbo Fisher and orchestrated that buyout there. Now, you know me, I'm not going to come on here and trash people and call them a bunch of names. But folks, was that not just giving away money? Was that the best move for either one of those universities? No. That's why I am saying, nothing has to happen. But if you want to see any semblance of reform in college football, it's going to have to start with the administrations going, no, we're going to start structuring contracts that incentivizes you to win instead of Not. And we see this all the time, folks. We see it, you see it, I see it, we all see it. And so Clemson right now is at a really bad place. And I'm looking at their schedule. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play Florida State next week. Florida State is 0-4 in the conference. This come apart this year, for some reason, seems a little worse than last year, even though they won more games this year. And you're like, well, how could you say that, Brian? They were 2-10 last year. It's because they started off by beating Alabama, and nothing makes sense about that. Alabama looks pretty doggone good right now. But I fully believe that Florida State can walk into Clemson, South Carolina next week, 7 o'clock on whatever network it's on. God forbid that the network should break ties with your TV provider like, well, ESPN did with YouTube. Fortunately, I went to Fubo and signed up for a free trial with my fingers crossed that maybe something will work out. If it doesn't, I'm going to be changing providers because this is college football season. And I'll guarantee you that was done on purpose. Why? Leverage. Negotiations. This is an inopportune time for there to be a break in service between ESPN and YouTube in the heart of college football. See, leverage. Leverage. You hear that? YouTube will suffer catastrophic cancellations. And ESPN knows that. It's called leverage. Florida State can definitely beat Clemson. The week after that, you have Louisville on a Friday night in Louisville. Well, that's a weird one. We don't do well on off nights like Mondays and Fridays. Clemson played on a Monday night, 2023, Labor Day against Duke. Got our tail handed to us by 3 touchdowns. That's right. Kelly Bryant years 2017, Clemson played on a Friday night against Syracuse. They knocked him out cold. Clemson lost that ball game. And that was when, especially that team, that was when Clemson had still had some solid coaches there. It was the year in between 2 national championships. That was not a team to sneeze at. That was a very good football team. And Kelly Bryant was an incredible athlete. I just don't think quarterback was his position. He wasn't terrible. But Kelly had the misfortune of being in between the 2 best quarterbacks that ever walked through the doors of Clemson, South Carolina. And also, I think he could have switched positions and made it to the big leagues and actually did very well. I'm not trash talking Kelly Bryant. If you're hearing that or you're like, well, I'm sorry, I disagree, that's totally fine. If he were someone that I knew, I'd encourage him to change positions. I'm not talking trash about him. I have respect for his athleticism and what he did. With that said, Clemson does terrible in off nights. They're going to play Louisville. Right now, Louisville is struggling with Virginia Tech. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It's focused. They're not focused. All right? They're not focused. But most likely Louisville will come back and win this ball game. Who was really focused against a terrible Virginia Tech team who had to fire their coach 4 weeks ago, if not more? Clemson will definitely lose that ball game. Then you play Furman in Clemson. You're going to win that ball game. You're most likely going to win that ball game. Furman is not an amazing FCS team. In other years, if they were an amazing FCS team, if this was like a North Dakota State coming to Clemson, I'd go North Dakota State. Historically, they've been unbelievable in FCS. I don't know what they're like this year. I imagine they're still incredible. In fact, just for my curiosity, I want to see what their record is right now. They're 8-0, so it looks like they're doing the same old they always do, win multiple national championships at the FCS level. But folks, I mean, I'll tell you straight up that I'll tell you straight up that I see Clemson beating Furman. I see Clemson losing to South Carolina. I mean, you could say it's going to be a good game or whatever. Whatever. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I see Clemson. I see Clemson losing to South Carolina. And then what? I mean, what's the next step? What is the next step? Where do you go from there? Do you lose a bunch of players to the transfer portal? That's a really good question. That's a question worth asking. If so, who? It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. But I'll tell you this. It will come to fruition. We will see what happens. And unfortunately, at this point, I'm looking at the schedule. I see Clemson losing to Florida State. I see them losing to Louisville. I see them losing to South Carolina. And they would be 4-8 at the end of the season. And I don't think anyone saw this coming. Unless you're one of those people who's always going, yeah, Clemson's going to be 4-8 this year. You say it like every year, and it eventually comes to pass. Okay, great, wonderful. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. But I mean, this is absolutely nuts. This is absolutely nuts. I'm going to get into the comments section here. Let me see. Ruby Ridge, Clemson plays Furman to lose. Not going to happen. We're not physical. Why did the refs intentionally steal this game for Duke? That question needs to be answered. Talk about the elephant in the room, dude. Yeah, I talked about it at the very beginning. I did talk about it in the very beginning. I said that it should have been offsetting penalties. It was a hold on Clemson. He hugged the guy from the beginning of the route all the way through, and then once the Duke player, who was still kind of tangled up with the Clemson player from the initial contact, once he saw the ball go up and he realized that Clemson could intercept the ball, he held the Clemson player back. So that is offensive pass interference. That would have been a flag. There was probably about 3 officials that saw that happen from the beginning of the play, moving into another area of coverage. So there was probably 2 or 3 sets of eyes on it. And there would have been a flag on the initial hold, and then there would have been a flag from your back judge or whatever the proper position name is in the college game, because as you move through the high school ball and certain levels of ball, you add more officials to the field, and they have a different position name. So whatever that position name, that guy on the backside made the right call. The guy at the beginning did not make the right call. Whoever had that area of coverage did not make the right call. That was defensive holding, and the backside was offensive pass interference. And that's what should have been called. It would have been offsetting penalties to replay the down. That's what would happen. That's what should have happened. Kenneth Maynard says, if Furman beats Clemson, discontinue the football program. The refs need to be fired. Stop. I have some people, the refs need to be investigated. Well, I'll tell you this, man, after everything that's come out about NBA players who makes millions of dollars and one of the coaches who makes millions of dollars being tied, one of them being tied to the mafia. And I'm not saying this is what went on. I'm not saying this is what went on with the officiating crew at Clemson at all. I'm not saying that. But I will tell you this, that if men who make millions of dollars can be influenced to receive money from either the mafia, organized crime, or they're throwing games to make more money, officials who are paid pretty solid to call this level of football, or once you get into the pros, they make solid money. It's not like, they're getting $100 per game and a little per diem to stop by McDonald's and get them, you can supersize this, man. We're really taking care of you. No, they're making really solid money. But if those millionaires who are playing the game and who are coaching the game at a high level can be influenced by organized crime or by illegal gambling, officials can too. And if you don't believe that, I feel really bad for you. Paulson, thanks for supporting the channel. Paulson says, the way you're describing how the refs handled that play reminds me of the 2019 championship game between the Saints and the Rams. Thank you for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm an independent, so this helps. Thank you so much. There's a lot of games that people believe that things were swayed. I mean, you go back to 2002 in the national championship between Ohio State and Miami. I don't know how many times I've seen a play like that go down for years at different levels of football, and it would be a no call, and there was a flag thrown on the Miami player. Who knows? JT Brown, some beer money from a fellow Clemson fan. Tough year ago, Tigers. Hope we get it figured out in the offseason. Thanks for supporting the channel, and you support on a monthly basis. Thank you so much. Anyone else who wants to support on a monthly basis, there's a join button below the video. I've made it affordable, so if you want to do that, I just hope at least you'll subscribe. It is free. JT Brown, you're always a really good friend of the channel. Thank you so much, and thanks for the super chat. I hope so too. We will see. But with that said, it is, just out of nowhere. All I can say is that I say out of nowhere. I was looking at the chat and my mind went, But I just have this weird feeling I don't think we're going to see significant changes. We'll see a few coaches probably fired, but I don't think we're going to see significant changes. We won't get it figured out in the offseason. Clemson student body. Let me see. Try out for defense midfield. Be the defensive field commander. Instruct and coach. That would have been a flag in 2018. I've seen enough. Good to see you, my man. Good to see you. Going through here. They were not robbed. It was one call on one play. What about the rest of the game? Now, Mike, here's the thing that I would say. I agree with that. I have a lot of agreements with what you're saying there. What about the rest of the game? What about the 46 points that you gave up? You scored 45. You score 45 points and you still lose a ball game? Someone was asking about why Tom Allen was in the booth. Tom Allen was on the sideline. It's crazy. There's a ton of you in here right now. And you've stayed with me now for almost an hour. I have to go out and run some errands here in a second. My wife is waiting on me. She was waiting on me to watch the game. She's like, watch the game and so on. Watch the game and so on. And we're going to go out. Then I'm going to finish the rest of the day watching football. Thank God I stopped coughing. But, this is tough, folks. This is tough for us Clemson fans to have to sit and watch. It really, really is. Because as I pulled up the history of Clemson football, and I mean, it was just spots here and there of where Clemson did really poor. And this is over various coaches. Multiple coaches. I think 5 of them, including Dabo. Dabo has had some bad seasons. Tommy Bowden, Tommy West, Hatfield, even Ford. Even Ford had some seasons that were not that great. Now, with that said, he was 6-6 in 85. He was 6-5 in 1980. I mean, Danny Ford didn't fall off that much. The next worst season he had was 84 when they were 7-4. You go to Ken Hatfield, he had a 5-6 season. He had a 9-3. Then he had a 5-6 season. No, I'm wrong. I am wrong. He had a 5-6 season in 92. And then that was West who had the 5-6 season. Then a 3-8 season in 98. And Tommy Bowden's very first season, he was 6-6. He went 6-5 in 04. Went 7-6 in 08, and that's when Sweeney took over midseason. So he didn't even finish out that season. But you can go through and you can look at all the winning that Clemson did from 11 to 20, even 2022, and we saw the ship starting to go down. We saw it. That dominance of 15 through winning a national championship in 18 and even going 14-1, losing a national championship to LSU. I mean, that was a lot of dominance. Most teams can't sustain that, and I give that to them. It's so hard to sit and watch this fall off. It really is. It is really, really difficult, and the question is just how much worse is it going to get? How many players is this going to cost us? How many recruits is this going to cost us? And I think the thing for me, we saw busted coverage. We've seen busted coverage. Archangel Music's in here, said, hey, nobody was on that Duke receiver. We had busted coverage. It was just wild. Someone's talking about Chad Godfrey says after the LSU game, this team quit, just an opinion. I'll tell you this, and look at this LSU team. They just lost their football coach. They just fired that man, and they're going to have to pay him out millions upon millions of dollars. Now, I've heard that there is a renegotiation or a settlement of his buyout, But you need to understand something. That team beat Clemson, and they fired their head coach with 3 losses. That is where college football is at right now. And that was Clemson's big game of the year. And that team doesn't even have their head coach that walked into Death Valley and beat Clemson. They fired him. That's where the game is at. Rodney Ellis says, I've been watching Clemson football since I was 0 feet tall. I've never seen a Clemson defense play this bad. The defense started falling apart over the past 3 years. Really bad. Last year, it got bad. This year, it's still bad. Crocutta says the officials were calling the contact before the wide receiver made his break. Lee Harden Comedy asked a question: would Dabo have a better shot at getting an OC from the SEC or hiring a recently fired head coach like Van Gundy? I think he needs to look at an offensive coordinator. I'm serious. I am tired of talking about the coaching staff changes because I've beat that drum so hard that I've busted the head. And I know you're asking me a question. I'll answer the question. We know that this coaching staff, unfortunately, needs an overhaul. And I'm just going to leave that there. Everyone that is still watching me right now, there's a ton of you still watching me, by the way, which just makes me feel good. I'm glad you're watching an independent. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Subscribe if you haven't. With that said, it's just tough. It's tough to sit and watch, folks. I'll take some questions in the comment section if you want to throw a question. I know there's a ton of questions in here. I'll answer a few questions, then I'm going to have to get ready to leave because my wife has been extremely patient with me. Thank you, son. I appreciate you. Tell your mom I'm almost ready to go, okay? Okay. Big John's in here. Said Petrino Pelini 2026. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. It's good to see you. Refs didn't score 46. Not wasting another minute of my life on this team until the things change down there. Good to see you, my man. They pay Cade $3 million, shouldn't let Dabo stay, and receive $200 million for 2 natties. They have been overhauling the system for years. He says, hit the like button. That's from a Gamecock. Good to see you, Eddie Blackburn. That's a good wife. That's a good wife. Yes. Yes. The defense was struggling, but they had some really good points. If they were a better coach, the defense would have improved. Jacquez says, I think there is going to be some major changes after this. I'm going to tell you, my friend, I hope so, but I'm not holding my breath. I just don't believe in it. I just don't believe that there will be major changes overall. I just don't see it. Our defense changed when Tim Allen came from the box. Look it up. He was upstairs. He needs to be on the field in the game. Only melanate. What is that? Now on to other things. Real Micro Guy says, let me see. Clemson will beat Gamecocks. That's really the only game left. Hey, I hope so. We are past Clemsoning bad at this point. Brian, go take care of your wife. No dude beating a dead horse with Clemson this year. Hey, is that my wife saying that? Is this my wife's burner account? By the way, you know there's burner accounts, folks. I'm not kidding. There's burner accounts. I'm gonna leave that there. You know what, y'all? I'm going to reward her in being very patient with me and sitting up here and rambling about my team going 3-5, running my mouth with y'all, having a good time. Impact Joker said, if you're upset, the best remedy for that is hitting the sub button, y'all. It's good to see you. Good to see you. JT Brown sounds like your life. Bro took the advice. Waits coach in one season has turned them around. Good to see y'all. All right, folks. Here's the thing I'm going to ask. I say this all the time. I want you to go check it. There's 405 of you in here. I want you to go check out my other channel. My other channel is another college football podcast. I want you to go check it out. The link is below this. So it's not even going to break a sweat for you. Click it, go over there and hit subscribe. All right, hit subscribe. It's free. Hit subscribe on this. It's free. I'm an independent. Also, hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it. If you want to join on a monthly basis, there's a join button below this video. I've made it really affordable. I do appreciate it. Pass it along in the forums. That's how the channel grows, actually. Facebook, that's how the channel grows. I really do appreciate it. Pass it along on X, whatever. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate each and every one of y'all. It's nice. In fact, I ran into somebody who watches my show the other day. I ran into someone last night I was at a family event. They were talking to me. They watch my show all the time and never knew it. Keith, if you're watching me, I'm shocked, dude. I was like, holy crap. He watches he was talking about stuff I was talking about 2 days ago. And then he was telling me about some people he ran into at Home Depot that I guess he found out there were Clemson fans. He brought up my channel and that, yes, me and my son watch that guy all the time. So, y'all, it puts a smile on my face because I'm just a guy in his bonus room talking about his favorite team that he grew up in that area. And if you like that sort of thing, hope you'll subscribe and pass along to others. Y'all take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers. Now I'm going to take my wife shopping. That's why you need to join and support the channel, because I got to take her shopping.